Atletico Madrid to buy a Manchester United star? Is Osimhen heading to conquer the Premier League? Rashford's new club revealed. Will Saudi Arabia get what it wants? Will Vinicius leave Real Madrid? All this and much more in today's episode. If this video gets 500 thumbs up, it will motivate us to keep creating new content. So enjoy the show and let's get started. Vinicius is back in the spotlight. The Brazilian winger from Real Madrid, who has recently become a regular in the sports headlines, has made waves again. This time, the news is serious. He managed to avoid a lengthy suspension following a recent incident during the match against Valencia. Instead of the anticipated 12-game ban, he'll miss just a couple of matches. Of course, there's also a hefty fine of €600,000. So, as they say, he got off lightly, if such amounts can be considered light. Let's start with the fine. After the controversial La Liga episode where Vinicius received a red card for pushing Valencia's goalkeeper, it seemed like the punishment would be severe. Media outlets speculated about a 12-game suspension. Can you imagine? But Madrid worked their magic and got the charges reduced, resulting in just a 2-game ban. However, the reduced ban came with a 6-figure fine, €600,000 for Vinicius and another €700,000 for the club. What can we say? That's a serious hit to the wallet, but for Vinicius, who earns millions, it's like handing over $100 for a cab ride. Chances are he won't even feel it. Still, there's an open question. Will Real Madrid reimburse him for this fine or leave him to cover it himself? Moving on. It seems the Vinicius saga is taking an entirely new turn. According to The Athletic, Saudi club Al Ahly is in active negotiations to sign the Brazilian star. In December, they already met with Vinicius' agent, and now they're discussing serious matters. We're not talking hundreds of millions here. The buyout clause in his contract is a staggering €1 billion. For context, Transfermarkt values him at €200 million. Yes, along with Haaland, he's considered the most expensive footballer in the world. But €1 billion? That's bordering on fantasy. It seems the Saudis have completely detached from reality. They're reportedly ready to offer Vinicius so much money that he'll have to seriously weigh his options, stay at Real Madrid or move to the Saudi Pro League. Honestly, the atmosphere around Vinicius is extremely tense right now. Constant scandals, provocations from opponents, dives, controversial referee decisions. It's clearly taking a toll not just on the player, but on the club as well. In fact, Real Madrid filed a formal complaint with the federation over this latest incident, demanding a review of the refereeing in La Liga. But where will this lead? That remains an open question. On the other hand, let's reflect. If the transfer does happen, what will it mean for Real Madrid? Vinicius is undoubtedly one of the team's key players right now, but that kind of money, €1 billion, it could mark a new era for the club. With that sum, they could practically build a new team around Mbappé. As for Vinicius, such a deal might actually work in his favor. A career in the Saudi League means an enormous payday with a relatively lower level of competition. But will he go for it? So far, he's been silent. No, yes, no, no. What would you do in his shoes? So, will Real try to hold on to him amid the Saudis' interest, or is even Florentino Perez considering cashing in on this asset and sending him to Saudi Arabia? And how do you feel about €1 billion for a player? Doesn't it seem like we're slowly but surely heading toward a complete rewrite of football's traditions? Share your thoughts in the comments. Remember, in our previous videos, we talked about Virgil van Dijk possibly packing his bags and leaving Liverpool this summer. Well, it seems like the story has taken an unexpected turn. Fabrizio Romano has whispered that Liverpool and Van Dijk are super close to extending his contract. And let me remind you, his current deal runs out this summer. The club seems confident they can keep their star defender. And the Dutchman himself apparently wants to stay and keep shining for the Reds. Honestly, it's a bit surprising, don't you think? And remember how the press was buzzing about Real Madrid setting their sights on Van Dijk? Like, they'd grab him for free this summer and everything would be perfect for them. Well, if you trust the media, that was the plan. And considering the mess Perez and his crew are dealing with in defense, signing Van Dijk would have been a total masterstroke. But then, bam, a plot twist. Rumours started swirling that Real had second thoughts. They decided to stick to their old school rules. No aging players, especially not on long-term deals. Coincidence? I don't think so. Here's the kicker. When the media first started linking him with Real, Van Dijk kept quiet, or gave those vague, "let's see what happens" responses. But as soon as it became clear Real weren't interested anymore, Virgil suddenly did a 180 and started pledging his loyalty to Liverpool. Miraculous, isn't it? Honestly, I think there was real interest from Real, but it just didn't work out. Classic story, really. And let's be honest, where else was Van Dijk going to go if not Madrid? Seriously, who's on a higher level than Liverpool right now when we're talking elite clubs? Real is real. End of discussion. By the way, Liverpool finds itself in a similar spot to a few years ago. Remember when they barely managed to convince Salah and Mane to stay? Back then, they had to let Mane go to Bayern, prioritizing Salah, and now it's a similar situation. Salah, Van Dijk, Trent, maybe that's why negotiations are dragging on. It seems like the club knows they can't keep everyone, at least not on the terms the players want. So the higher-ups are probably figuring out the best move. Could they end up trading one of the trio? Quite possible. Honestly, if I were them, I'd think long and hard before letting any of these guys go. They're all priceless in their own way. Oh, and almost forgot. Remember those rumors about Elon Musk buying Liverpool? Forget it! The club has outright denied it, saying it's complete nonsense. They haven't had any talks with Musk, and the club isn't for sale. Well, who knows, as they say. But for now, I think we can put that story to rest. Sounds plausible, but you can't help but feel a little suspicious, right? So that's the tangled web of Van Dijk's story. Will he stay or go? Does Real want him or not? Like we said earlier. And here's another question. Which of the trio, Salah, Van Dijk, Trent, could Liverpool afford to lose? Personally, I don't think any of them should go. What about you? Who would you keep and who might you let go if you were Zlat? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe. You know the drill. According to the most reputable French sources, it seems Didier Deschamps is planning to bid a firm adios to the French national team after the 2026 World Cup. And you know what's most intriguing? Rumor has it, he doesn't care at all how Les Bleus perform. Whether they win the trophy or fail to make it out of the group stage, apparently the decision has already been made. And honestly, it makes sense. It's likely something he's been planning for quite some time. Kind of like leaving on a high note, or at the very least, exiting gracefully before getting the boot. As they say, it's a double-edged sword no matter how you look at it. Of course, the big question then is, who will take over this sacred seat? And as if by magic, one name immediately comes to mind. Yes, you guessed it, Zinedine Zidane. Our beloved Zizou, who, let's be honest, has become almost a myth at this point. We've been talking about him for so long, waiting for his return to the dugout, and yet he seems to be on some sort of eternal vacation. Which brings me to a thought. Does the French national team even want Zidane that much? What do you think? Sure, he's a legend, a figure of immense authority, but he's been out of the game for so long. Meanwhile, the expectations for the French team are nothing short of victory. Don't you think his appointment might be a bit risky? Just think back to what's already happened. Everyone assumed Deschamps would step down, and Zidane was all but crowned the new messiah. Then, boom, Deschamps gets his contract extended. Now that was a shocker, let me tell you. A lot of people were baffled at the time. Sure, Deschamps is clearly a great coach, but this is Zidane we're talking about. How could anyone even consider another option? And yet, word was, they didn't even seriously consider Zidane as a candidate back then. So coming back to the topic of Deschamps and his potential departure, the situation is certainly intriguing, no two ways about it. Tell me, honestly, do you think Zidane is what the French team needs right now, or is all this just hype around his name? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to hear what you think. In the meantime, while you're busy typing away, we'll keep you posted with all the freshest updates from the football world and beyond. Transfers, scandals, intrigues, investigations, we've got it all covered for you. It seems like the Manchester United management is in shock themselves over just how many valuable assets they've accumulated at Old Trafford. You've probably heard that things aren't exactly great financially for Manchester United right now. Let's just say the club's coffers are loudly and persistently asking for a top-up. Enter the aftermath of years of brilliant transfer policy, which has left behind a legacy that practically begs to be cleared out. And here comes the first bombshell. Marcus Rashford. Looks like he might already have one foot out the door. Remember when he made those comments about being open to leaving? Well, since then, it's as if a switch flipped. Suddenly, he stopped making the matchday squad entirely. Coincidence? I don't think so. Sure, there's talk now that his relationship with Amorim has improved, but to be honest, I'm not buying it. Something tells me Rash's days at Old Trafford are numbered. And if this was just rumours at first, things are now starting to happen. According to the Express, a serious contender has entered the scene, AC Milan. And guess who's playing matchmaker here? Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Zlatan, now working as a senior advisor at the club, has reportedly gotten directly involved in the process, hoping to lure Rashford to Serie A. Just imagine that pairing, Zlatan convincing Rashford to join the Rossoneri. Honestly, this alone feels like it could be its own Netflix miniseries. And here's another interesting twist. Remember how in previous videos we talked about potential destinations for Rashford? Back then, Milan was just a minor name on the list. Now, it seems like they've moved to the front of the pack. And honestly, it makes sense. Rashford's career has clearly stalled, and he's in desperate need of fresh air. And what better place to hit reset than in a legendary club like Milan? Still, it's not all that simple. From what we're hearing, Milan isn't likely to shell out a hefty fee for a permanent transfer this January. Instead, the deal being floated is more of a loan with an option, or perhaps even an obligation, to buy in the summer. And that raises a big question. What about United? Are they really willing to let Rashford leave on loan, knowing they might still be on the hook for part of his massive salary? Oh, and here's another fun tidbit. Apparently, Rashford's entourage is already busy travelling back and forth to Milan to negotiate the move. And that's interesting, considering not too long ago, he reportedly turned down lucrative offers from Saudi Arabia and Turkey. I guess Milan must feel like a different level entirely. Let's be honest, playing at the iconic San Siro is nothing like running up and down the pitch in some random Saudi city. But here's where I start to have my doubts. Does Milan really need Rashford? Yes, the club is top tier, the history is incredible, but let's face it, they aren't exactly swimming in money right now either. So imagine this, Milan takes Rashford on loan while United's still footing part of his wages. Kinda strange, isn't it? And to add to that, Milan doesn't exactly have a shortage of wide players. Where does Rashford even fit in there? Could Zlatan really be so persuasive that the Milan management is willing to make what looks like a bit of a strange, high-cost decision? Personally, it's hard for me to make sense of it all. Oh, and one last thing. Word on the street is that Rashford isn't even training with Manchester United at the moment, reportedly due to illness or some other reason. Whatever the case, the situation surrounding him feels tense to say the least. And you know what? I have to agree with those who are saying that it feels like there's no way back for Rashford at United. Even if he returns from a potential loan spell, it would probably just delay the inevitable. He needs a change. Badly. That much is obvious. And United? They seem more than happy to cash in on him while they still can. Word is they're hoping to get around £40 million for him, which isn't bad for a valuable asset, as we mentioned earlier. Whether he ends up at Milan or not remains to be seen. Time will tell. The situation around Endrick is turning into not just a sad tale, but a full-blown drama. Let's not forget, Real Madrid shelled out, brace yourself, €60 million for him when he was barely 16 years old. Now that's what I call faith in talent. To recap, Endrick moved to Madrid last summer after turning 18. You'd think this would be his moment to shine. But as the saying goes, things look good on paper. The competition at Real Madrid right now is no joke. Vinicius, Rodrigo and Kylian Mbappe. How is a young prospect supposed to break through with names like that? According to Spanish media, Real's management has asked Endrick to be patient. They're basically saying, hang in there, kid, your time will come. But Endrick himself doesn't seem too thrilled about waiting. And honestly, we don't blame him. 16 matches, just 250 minutes of playing time, and his last goal way back in mid-September. That's not exactly the kind of stats you'd hope for after making a big money move to a top club. Now comes the twist. Reports suggest Endrick is seriously rethinking his future. While he's expected to stay put in Madrid during the January transfer window, come summer, well, let's just say all options are on the table. And here's the kicker. Interest in him is massive. If the press is to be believed, a whole queue of Premier League clubs is already lining up to sign the young Brazilian. But are we really surprised? The kid's talent hasn't gone anywhere. This brings to mind the stories of Vinicius and Rodrigo. Real Madrid also took a gamble on those young Brazilians, and as we've seen, it paid off. But, as the saying goes, not all risks lead to rewards. So, as much as we'd like to hope for the best, there are always risks. Which leaves us with this. Endrick, once hailed as a future star of world football, is now at risk of stagnating on Real Madrid bench. Management is reportedly considering a loan move. To be honest, that raises quite a few questions. Isn't it a bit too early? Could this damage him psychologically? On the other hand, what's the alternative? Sit on the bench and polish those €60 million warm-up seats? As they say, there are two paths forward. Either Endrick stays at Real Madrid, scrapes together every chance he gets, and proves his worth, or he is loaned out to a Premier League club where he can get more game time, gain experience, and return to Madrid as a fully polished player. If you ask us, the second option seems more logical. The Premier League is the perfect proving ground. Pace, physicality, relentless competition. It's a true testing ground for talent. And Premier League clubs aren't clueless. They know exactly the kind of player they'd be getting. That said, Real Madrid is an unpredictable club. How many times have we seen young talents suddenly break through and become key players at the Bernabeu? Maybe Endrick's best days are still ahead of him. Maybe all he needs is just a bit more time. Still, something tells us that come summer, we'll see Endrick in a different jersey, at least temporarily, and it'll most likely be with a Premier League club. What about you? Do you think Real Madrid should send Endrick out on loan? And if so, which club do you think would suit him best? Share your thoughts in the comments. Arne Slot, as rumours suggest, has already set his sights on an ideal striker, and guess who it is? Victor Osimhen. All of this seems to stem from things not going so smoothly with Darwin Núñez. Let's take a trip down memory lane. Remember how Darwin burst onto the scene at Anfield? Grandiose, with a hefty price tag. Everyone expected fireworks, but honestly, it's been more of a firecracker than a full-blown display. This season, under Slot, Núñez seems to be slipping even further down the pecking order. The coach, if the press is to be believed, prefers to play either Diogo Jota or even Luis Diaz. Yes, Diaz, a natural winger, in the center. What does that tell you? Clearly, Slot's tactical ideas and the Uruguayan's raw energy aren't meshing well. Amid all the chatter about Núñez potentially leaving, Osimhen's name has surfaced. He's currently tearing it up on loan at Galatasaray. And, according to reports, Manchester United is also seriously interested. Word is, Ruben Amorim sees Osimhen as the top target to bolster United's attack next year. A January transfer? Highly unlikely. The Turkish side isn't exactly eager to part ways with their star mid-season. But come summer, well, as they say, anything's possible, especially since Napoli has reportedly lowered the release clause to a more palatable €75 million. According to Anfield Watch, Slot is practically dreaming of Osimhen in a red jersey, and the funniest part, this dream is allegedly shared by sporting director Richard Hughes. However, there's a catch. This move, if insiders are to be trusted, hinges on Núñez packing his bags and leaving Anfield. Despite his limited game time, the Uruguayan still has plenty of admirers, but Slot seemingly doesn't see him in Liverpool's long-term plans. AC Milan reportedly had an eye on Núñez last summer, but Liverpool's £50 million price tag scared them off. Slot himself admitted to having discussions with Núñez about adapting to his requirements, but evidently it's not that simple. Liverpool's desire to land Osimhen seems very real, and honestly, who could blame them? The guy's a true fox in the box, capable of turning nothing into a goal. Liverpool, as we know, creates chances by the truckload, but there's not always someone to finish them off. Osimhen, with his killer instinct, could be the perfect solution, especially since the €75 million price tag reportedly doesn't scare the Reds' management, as long as they can get a decent fee for Núñez. Here's another twist. Rumour has it that Osimhen recently turned down a move to Manchester United this month. And you know what? It feels like a smart move. Staying at Galatasaray until the season ends, enjoying his football, and then choosing from multiple options in the summer. Sounds like a plan, but apparently Aurelio De Laurentiis isn't thrilled about this decision. No surprises there. Napoli wants their money now, and this throws a wrench in their plans. So where does that leave us? Liverpool wants Osimhen. Osimhen might be open to it, but everything hinges on Núñez's fate. Here's the big question. Do you think Liverpool is ready to take the leap? Let go of Núñez, a talented player despite it all, and gamble on splashing a significant sum for Osimhen? Slot seems to envision a new-look team, and Osimhen is likely a key piece of that puzzle. What's your take on this potential swap? Osimhen for Núñez, upgrade or downgrade? And where do you think the Nigerian striker will eventually end up? Let's discuss. The fun part is making predictions and speculating. Let's see what the summer brings. Remember that whole saga with Manchester City and their so-called financial adventures? You know, those 115 alleged breaches of financial regulations? Well, it seems like we're finally nearing the finish line. Rumor has it, yes, those same rumors that often turn out to be true, that we'll get the verdict in just a couple of months. In fact, some are even whispering it could all be laid out on the table as soon as February. Makes you wonder, how did they speed things up so quickly? Whatever the verdict may be, you can bet at least one side will immediately appeal. That's practically guaranteed. So this marathon of legal battles is just getting started. But hey, why not speculate a bit in the meantime? After all, we're all dying to know what's in store for City. So let's break it down. There are three main accusations. The harshest one, in my opinion, is the story about payments from their owners being passed off as sponsorship deals. A classic case of financial gymnastics. Or, let's face it, fraud. If they're penalized for each individual breach, we're talking, according to Rumours, a deduction of 60 to 100 points. Can you even imagine the chaos? That's basically a one-way ticket to the championship. Of course, some allegations will be tricky to prove. Those murky payments to players, well, as the saying goes, no proof, no crime. And honestly, half of Europe seems to be doing the same thing. But hey, that's just between us. Then there's the issue of current and former players being listed as employees or associates of companies owned by the club's owners. Shady? For sure. Easy to prove? Not so much. Where City might really get burned, though, is their refusal to cooperate with the Premier League's investigation. Now, that's what I'd call next-level arrogance. Basically, we're the big dogs here. We do what we want. And here's another interesting point. If City lose this case, it's not just about points or titles. In theory, their entire board might have to pack their bags. Makes sense, doesn't it? If they're found guilty of providing false information, heads will surely roll. But Manchester City aren't the only club with skeletons in their closet. The ripples have reached Paris as well. Reports are emerging that PSG could face sanctions from UEFA. And guess why? Non-payment of Kylian Mbappe's wages. They supposedly have the money, but either forgot to pay him or chose not to. This, as you can imagine, reeks of a breach of the licensing and financial sustainability regulations. UEFA is strict about this stuff. No outstanding debts to employees by July 15th, October 15th, and January 15th. If you fail to report that everything's been settled by those dates, UEFA is supposed to take action. But the real question is, what kind of action? Most likely, we're talking about exclusion from European competitions. But here's the funny part. PSG doesn't seem too bothered. They're currently sitting in 25th place in the standings, so it's not like they're going to make the playoff rounds this season anyway. Still, what about next season? A potential ban could be a serious blow to the egos of the Qatari owners. Though to be fair, something tells me they'll sort it out quickly and pay Mbappe what he's owed. Al-Khelaifi might be a tough guy, but from a purely economic perspective, it makes sense to settle the issue, especially if they're planning on making a run in the Champions League playoffs. And they are, aren't they? Or are they? As the saying goes, the fish rots from the head. And in football, apparently, it rots from the money. Both Manchester City and PSG are undoubtedly powerhouse clubs, yet even they have their skeletons in the closet. It's going to be fascinating to see how they wriggle their way out of this one. And how will it all end? I have a feeling there's plenty more drama ahead for us to enjoy. What do you think about all this? Who do you think will manage to come out unscathed? Rumours, and not just rumours, but an actual hurricane of them. Remember that young Argentine devil, Garnacho? Well, it seems like this guy is no longer considered untouchable at Manchester United. Daily Mail, those guys are something else, always stirring the pot. And now they've put out a story that, honestly, will leave your jaw on the floor. I mean, sure, football is a business, we get it, but Garnacho? Really? So, according to these British friends, a whole lineup of top clubs is keeping an eye on Garnacho. Bayern Munich, PSG, the Italian giants Milan, and, of course, how could they not be involved? Real Madrid and Barcelona. These clubs certainly have quite the appetite, don't they? And you know what's even more intriguing? We're not talking about some cheap loan deals here. No. The conversation is about a full-blown transfer, and the price tag, United reportedly wants £70 million for him. If we believe what Daily Mail is saying, and let's be honest, we're taking this with a pinch of salt, Manchester United apparently believes they can cash in more on Garnacho than even Marcus Rashford. And here's the kicker that adds more fuel to the fire. Garnacho himself might not be completely against leaving Old Trafford, and where does he want to go? Of course, back home to Atletico Madrid. It seems the guy isn't feeling all that comfortable at United right now. Or rather, let's put it this way, he's unhappy with his current role at the club. On top of that, he's reportedly doubtful about how he fits into Ruben Amorim's tactical system. Those 3-4-3 formations aren't everyone's cup of tea, you know? Now this is where Atletico Madrid enters the stage. Diego Simeone hasn't forgotten about his former academy player, it seems. The Colchoneros are reportedly on the lookout for reinforcements on the flanks. And guess who could be the perfect fit for them? That's right, Alejandro Garnacho. Here's a fun little fact. Garnacho spent almost 5 years in Atletico's academy before he made the move to Manchester United for a mere £420,000. Just peanuts by today's standards. And now, well, now we're talking 70 million. What a rise! What progress! If this transfer happens, it could really be a blessing for United's financial fair play situation. Since Garnacho is considered a homegrown player, the entire transfer fee would go down as pure profit for the club. Of course, it's still unclear whether United is actually ready to let him go, but according to the press, Garnacho's departure could happen either this month or in the summer transfer window. And here's something that bothers me personally about this whole Amorim situation. There are whispers that Garnacho doesn't have the best relationship with the Portuguese manager. After that match against CITI, if you remember, he's been stuck on the bench. A 20-year-old full of energy being left to rot on the sidelines. No wonder he's unhappy. Something tells me these rumours didn't just come out of thin air. Maybe there's some sort of conflict behind the scenes that the club is working hard to keep under wraps. So, is Manchester United really prepared to lose such a talent? Will they be able to find a worthy replacement? And most importantly, what does Garnacho himself really want? To be honest, if Garnacho leaves, it'll be a huge shame. He's a bright, technical player who brings that spark and excitement to the game. Sure, he's not always consistent, but his potential is absolutely enormous. Letting him go just like that, I don't know, feels like a mistake to me. So what have we got here? Garnacho might be on his way out of Manchester United. The top clubs are circling around him. And Garnacho himself? Well, maybe he really is ready to switch clubs. Atletico Madrid, meanwhile, is standing there with open arms, ready to welcome their prodigal son back home. Now, what do you all think about this? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to give this video a like if you found it interesting. That's it from me for today. Stay tuned for more updates because there's plenty more to come. See you soon, take care, bye for now.